Business Flash. Alex and Paul.
Hey, John Tucker, thank you so much. We appreciate that. Alex Steele and Paul Sweeney live here in our Bloomberg Interactive Broker Studio, streaming live on YouTube as well. That Musk news is really interesting. It's great for the stock. Stock's up 4%, as John was just reporting, so I'm sure the investors there are happy. Let's go right down to D.C. and get it from the our source down in D.C., Nathan Dean, Senior Policy Analyst for Bloomberg Intelligence. Nathan, in the Beltway, what was the feeling, what is the feeling about Elon Musk, his role, his proximity to the president is so close, and it's been that way since the inauguration here, but is anybody surprised that he may be leaving soon?
So I don't think I was surprised. I think this makes sense. And obviously, if you're a Tesla investor, you're going to like the idea that Elon Musk returns to the company. But if you think about it, the Doge committee, the Doge group, if you will, they've been expanding. Bloomberg News just reported a few minutes ago that Kalshi's chief regulatory officer is going to Doge. What Elon Musk essentially has done is he's created a group, and they're going agency by agency, but they can only cut so much. If they cut too much, then eventually it's going to be a political blowback. And Elon Musk doesn't have the power to go after the mandatory spending, which is where the big ticket items in terms of reducing the deficit is. So I think this makes sense. He's going to return to the Tesla, assuming Politico's reporting is correct. He'll return to Tesla, but nothing prevents him from coming back. Nothing prevents him from going into the White House. And I think if you're a Republican on Capitol Hill, you'll love the idea that maybe you're not going to have the White House calling for deep cuts to Social Security, the mandatory spending, if you will. They'll be left to Congress. So I think they may be pleased with this as well.
So this is not the end of Doge, if this is indeed true. This is just sort of an evolution of Doge. So we can still expect that to come and bring hammers to everyone's payroll here?
Absolutely. Well, at least in terms of your first question, in terms of this is not the end of Doge. Doge is going to continue. But what Elon Musk did is essentially created a group of advisors and individuals that are going in agency by agency, and they're looking at identifying areas to cut. But for, Elon's main goal of deficit reduction, he's not going to be able to do that with Doge. They just do not have the power to do that. It requires an act of Congress. So you are going to see Doge continue probably for the next year, if not a little bit longer, until they really get to the point where they are streamlined and they feel that they've adequately right-sized those agencies. But for the big ticket items, we're going to see that in the upcoming tax debate in terms of things like Medicaid, SNAP benefits. Obviously that wasn't mandatory, but Social Security, the really key things that are really important to the deficit, Doge and Elon Musk just don't have the ability to control. He's going to need Congress to do that, and I think Congress is going to be happy. They're now going to be back in the driver's seat, assuming that Elon Musk does leave.
And Nathan, I wonder if the last night's race in Wisconsin with the judicial race where Elon Musk candidate did not win, do you think that had anything to do with his decision-making?
I don't think so, but I think what last night did, it was an indication of what Republicans fear may happen 18 months from now. I mean, if you look at midterm elections, they always swing back the other way. I mean, the joke is, think of U.S. politics as like a car out of control going down the street. It hits guardrails left and right. It never goes straight. And so, the tendency here is that the House of Representatives is going to be in play for Democrats. And I think yesterday just told a lot of those Republicans on Capitol Hill that a year from now, this may be something that hurts them politically. And so I don't think anybody's going to vote off of what happens right now, 18 months from now. But I do think that this, decision for Elon Musk to maybe step away from Washington and go back to Texas and Florida and so forth like that will make a little bit of the Republicans on Capitol Hill breathe a little bit easier just because they can get a little bit more control of the narrative.
You know what this did do? We didn't talk about tariffs for 4 minutes.
Yes.
I'm just saying that news flow definitely just changed. Nathan, okay, so 4 o'clock today. I'm going to be sitting on set, on TV, going to have my terminal, NI heads for all the pros out there. What are the headlines that the literal headline that crosses, that you're going to be most interested in?
So obviously the biggest question is this going to be a country tax or a tariff, or is this going to be a tiered tariff? But, one of the big questions we're getting from clients this morning is they're focusing on what Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is saying in terms these are a cap. He's essentially floating the idea that these are a cap, with the idea here that potentially President Trump will be willing to negotiate going forward and bringing this down from like a cap down to a reciprocal tariff. And so the question for me is, in this statement tonight at the White House, at the Rose Garden, is President Trump going to give any indication that he'll be willing to pick up a phone tomorrow? Because if that's the case, he can come out and say 20, 15%, 20% universal tariff, whatever it may be. but tomorrow it may be different. And so you're not going to get that clarity of this is what the tariff policy for the United States will be. I don't think the markets will like that, just because I don't think that clarity is coming.
So do you expect any pushback, feedback once we do know what the policy is from either, obviously, the Democrats or maybe even some in the Republican Party?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I think we're going to see, obviously the Senate sometime today pick up their resolution to try and, overturn these tariffs that were up with Canada. And, my vote count, at least I had, the Democrats need 4 Republican senators to go along with them. And I think they have it. So you are going to begin to see a public rebuke of some of these tariffs. I would just caution, though, and say that, tariffs are the power of the presidency. Congress delegated its authority a long time ago. So there's only so much Congress can do to actually advise the president and say, maybe you should scale this back. So it's ultimately President Trump's decision. And I think that for him to be able to walk back this tariff, and this is just my own personal belief, you're going to need to see consumer confidence or sticker shock amongst things that, Americans just buy on a daily basis for him to actually walk back a lot of that tariff threat.
And of course, though, the goal is to shift the economy, though, away from fiscal spending to private-led investments. Is that a possible thing?
Not in the short term. I mean, this has been the White House plan all along, is that you're going to have short-term pain for long-term gain. But, some of these pains are going to be very, very, very permanent. I mean, if you think of just the farmer argument in particular, that, if the United States does move forward and use the USDA to implement subsidies for farmers aren't going to like that, because essentially what it means is that you're going to be thrown out of the supply chain. And in the future, maybe instead of buying goods from the United States, they're going to buy it from Brazil. That's not something that you're going to be able to easily reverse. So yes, you are going to get this shift. And we've heard from clients saying, look, I want to potentially buy a factory in the United States. I just can't do it in 2025. Probably can't even do it by 2027. So, again, it's really how long can the White House really keep with this strategy to try and transform that economy?
All right, Nathan, thank you so much. We appreciate it. And you're going to have a long afternoon and into the evening analyzing what we will hear from the president this afternoon. Nathan Dean, senior policy analyst, Bloomberg Intelligence. He's based down there in Washington, D.C. He does a wonderful job of explaining all the mechanizations of what happens down there in Washington, in Congress and Capitol Hill and in the White House as well.